If you are over 60, walking may not be the best choice for your body anymore. For decades, walking was promoted as the safest option for aging joints. But over 60 exercises need to work differently than they did at 40. Repetitive impact, even light, can quietly stress knees, hips, and lower back. That's why many seniors walk daily and still feel stiff or unstable. The problem isn't effort, discipline, or motivation. It's that the stimulus no longer matches how the body adapts after 60. Here's the belief most people never question as they age. If I just keep walking, I'll stay mobile and strong. In reality, better than walking exercises now exist for older bodies. Exercises designed to support balance, stability, and joint protection. Movements that respect slower recovery and changing muscle activation. This is why many experts no longer default to walking alone. They look at what keeps people moving safely long-term. What changed isn't your willpower, it's how your body responds. After 60, muscles, tendons, and nerves need smarter signals. Repeating the same motion doesn't train balance or protective strength, and that's where risk quietly increases even with safe habits. What you were told years ago may no longer be the safest today. Once you see why, everything about movement starts to shift, and that leads directly into what specialists began noticing next. If you feel pain when walking, stiffness in your joints, or hesitation before moving, this message is for you. If getting up from a chair takes more effort than it used to, if uneven ground or stairs now require extra attention, if balance no longer feels automatic or natural, these changes often appear quietly after 60. They don't happen overnight, and they don't mean something is wrong with you. They simply reflect how the body evolves with age. Many people over 60 keep following advice that worked years ago. They're told to walk more, push through discomfort, and stay consistent. So they do exactly that, even when the body resists. Over time, pain becomes familiar and fear becomes subtle. This is where confidence slowly starts to drop. Safe exercises for seniors are rarely explained in this context, yet safety is not about avoiding movement, it's about choosing the right type of movement. Senior health tips today focus less on effort and more on control. Control of balance, posture, and joint stability, because those are the systems that prevent falls and injuries. When these systems weaken, walking alone doesn't fix them. It can even reinforce the imbalance. That's why many seniors feel active but not stable. The body is moving but not adapting in the right way, and that creates frustration over time. Here's the most important part to understand. The problem is not your discipline or motivation. It's not that you haven't tried hard enough. Your body simply needs a different stimulus now. A stimulus that respects recovery, joints, and nervous system changes. Safe exercises for seniors are designed with this reality in mind. They work with the body instead of fighting it, and that's when progress starts to feel possible again. Once this clicks, something shifts mentally. You stop blaming yourself for slowing down. You start asking better questions about movement, questions most people never think to ask, like why some exercises feel safer than others, and why certain movements restore confidence faster. That curiosity opens the door to a new approach, which leads directly to what specialists began noticing next.
Over the past few years, surgeons and mobility specialists started noticing a clear pattern. Patients over 60 who relied only on walking were not progressing as expected. Some stayed stiff, others lost balance confidence, and many plateaued. This pushed professionals to look beyond traditional advice. They began comparing outcomes between different movement approaches. What they saw challenged long-standing assumptions. Walking alone was not producing the safest long-term results, especially for joints, balance, and fall prevention. In clinical environments, safety always comes before tradition. Doctors don't care what's popular, they care what works. When repeated cases show the same limitations, protocols evolve. That's exactly what happened with senior movement recommendations. Instead of endurance-only activity, stability became the priority. Controlled strength, balance, and joint support took center stage. This is where surgeon-approved exercises entered the conversation, not as trends, but as responses to real outcomes. These recommendations didn't come from fitness culture. They came from observing recovery, injury risk, and mobility decline. Specialists saw that low-impact, controlled movements reduced strain. They also noticed improvements in confidence and daily function. Patients moved with more certainty, not just more steps. That difference mattered clinically, because fewer falls and setbacks mean better quality of life, and quality of life is the true goal after 60. What makes surgeon-approved exercises different is intention. Each movement serves a protective purpose. Nothing is random or excessive. Balance is trained before speed. Stability before repetition. This aligns with how the aging nervous system responds best. Doctors adjust recommendations based on biology, not habit. That's why these alternatives gained professional trust. It's important to understand this shift wasn't announced loudly. There was no headline or public reversal of advice. It happened quietly, inside clinics and rehab rooms, through observation, adjustment, and better results. When enough professionals reach similar conclusions, patterns emerge, and those patterns guide new standards of care. Once you understand what they prioritized first, everything makes sense, especially when you see how movement itself can be redesigned. After observing hundreds of patients over 60, a quiet pattern started to stand out. Some people improved faster, even though they trained less. They weren't pushing harder or lasting longer. Their sessions looked almost too simple at first glance. No heavy impact, no long walks, just controlled, intentional movements. That contrast raised important questions. What was interesting is that effort alone didn't explain the difference. Two seniors could be equally consistent and disciplined, yet one felt steadier, lighter, and more confident within weeks. The other stayed cautious, stiff, and hesitant. The gap wasn't motivation, it wasn't age, it wasn't even pain tolerance. It was how the body was being challenged. Those who improved seemed to send clearer signals to their bodies. Their movements asked for balance, coordination, and joint control. Instead of repeating the same motion, they trained stability. This allowed muscles and nerves to reconnect more efficiently. That's a key factor when trying to improve mobility after 60. The body doesn't need more repetition, it needs better information. And these simple movements provided exactly that. What made this discovery compelling was its consistency. It showed up across different ages, backgrounds, and fitness levels. Men and women experienced similar progress patterns. Not dramatic transformations, but steady improvements. Standing felt easier. Transitions felt smoother. Confidence slowly returned. These weren't isolated cases anymore. Once this pattern became clear, curiosity turned into focus. Why were these movements producing better outcomes? What were they activating that walking ignored? And why did they feel safer almost immediately? Answering those questions changed how movement was approached, because simplicity wasn't the weakness, it was the advantage. And understanding the mechanism behind that simplicity is crucial. That's where the next insight begins.
Walking feels natural, familiar, and easy to repeat. That's exactly why most people rely on it as their main activity. But walking repeats the same joint pattern over and over again. The hips move the same way, the knees absorb the same type of impact, the ankles follow the same limited range. Over time, the body adapts by doing less, not more. Efficiency replaces protection and gaps begin to form. What walking does not actively train is balance under control. It doesn't challenge side-to-side stability.
It doesn't strengthen the small support muscles that prevent falls. It rarely improves how the body reacts to sudden shifts. So while endurance may stay the same, stability quietly declines. This is why some seniors can walk long distances, yet feel unsure when turning, stepping, or standing still. The system that protects them is undertrained. Another issue is how the nervous system responds after 60. The brain needs variety to maintain strong movement signals. Walking sends the same message repeatedly. Eventually, that message loses its training effect. Balance, coordination, and posture need intentional stimulation. Without it, the body compensates instead of improving. That compensation shows up as stiffness or hesitation, and hesitation increases risk more than fatigue ever will. This creates a frustrating loop many people never understand. They walk every day, stay consistent, and follow advice, but their joints still feel tight. Their confidence doesn't improve. Their movements don't feel smoother. That's because the missing pieces were never addressed. Better than walking exercises focus on what walking ignores. They rebuild the foundation before adding repetition. This is the latent problem most seniors sense but can't name. They feel active yet limited, committed yet stuck. They assume aging is the reason progress stopped, but the real issue is incomplete stimulation. The body is waiting for a different signal, one that activates support, balance, and control together. And once that signal appears, everything starts to shift. There's a reason some routines feel safer almost immediately. They don't rely on impact or repetition. They rely on precision and control. Specialists identified 7 specific movements that fit this principle. Low-impact exercises for seniors designed to respect joints and recovery. They don't exhaust the body, they awaken it, and that distinction changes everything. These movements work differently than traditional exercise. They activate strength without strain. They challenge balance without fear. They improve mobility without forcing range. That's why strength and balance exercises over 60 look simpler than expected. Simplicity allows the nervous system to respond calmly. Calm signals lead to better coordination, and better coordination leads to safer movement. What makes these exercises unique is how they work together. Each one fills a gap walking leaves behind. One supports joint alignment, another improves weight transfer and control, another stabilizes the core and hips. Individually, they feel manageable. Together, they create a noticeable shift, but the order and intention matter. These exercises were not designed for performance, they were designed for function, to help the body move confidently again, to reduce hesitation before standing, turning, or stepping. That's why specialists approve them, not because they look impressive, but because they protect the body while rebuilding trust, and trust is what keeps people moving long-term. At this stage, the most important thing is restraint. Revealing everything at once would miss the point, because understanding why these movements work comes first. Without that understanding, they look ordinary. With that understanding, they become powerful, especially when paired with the right internal support. That's where the conversation naturally goes next, and it changes how results show up. Movement alone is only part of the equation after 60. The body also depends on internal conditions to respond properly. Joints need lubrication and resilience. Muscles need support to activate smoothly. Circulation needs to deliver nutrients efficiently. When these systems are under-supported, progress slows. Even the right exercises can feel harder than they should. This is where many routines quietly fall short. Senior health tips today focus on alignment between movement and recovery, not just what you do, but how well the body can adapt. As we age, nutrient absorption and utilization change. That affects how tissues respond to stress and repair. Without proper internal support, joints feel stiffer longer, muscles fatigue faster than expected, and circulation doesn't rebound as quickly. This creates friction the body must overcome every day. When the internal environment improves, something noticeable happens. Exercises feel smoother, not heavier. Warm-up time shortens. Recovery feels more complete. This doesn't require extreme interventions. It requires targeted support that matches the body's needs now. That's why specialists pair movement with nutritional assistance, because biology responds best to combined signals. Movement sends the external signal, nutrients support the internal response. Together, they create consistency. Consistency is what turns effort into results. This is the principle behind a complete solution. Movement alone is incomplete. Support alone is ineffective, but when combined, progress becomes predictable. This is where many seniors notice the biggest shift. Not overnight changes, but steady improvements they can feel. Walking feels more confident, not rushed or forced. Mornings start with less stiffness and less hesitation. Daily movements require less mental effort. These are the kinds of changes people notice first, and they tend to build gradually over time, which makes them feel sustainable and real. One of the most common shifts is increased confidence while moving. People feel safer taking steps, turning, and changing direction. That sense of safety reduces tension throughout the body. When fear decreases, movement becomes smoother. That's why safe exercises for seniors focus on control. Control creates trust between the brain and the body, and trust allows muscles to activate more naturally. That alone changes how daily activities feel. Another frequently mentioned change is how mornings improve. Less stiffness when getting out of bed, less need to warm up just to feel functional. The body feels more ready to move earlier in the day. This doesn't mean pain disappears instantly. It means recovery becomes more efficient, and efficiency reduces frustration over time. That matters more than quick fixes. People also describe feeling more secure during everyday tasks. Standing up from a chair feels steadier. Carrying groceries feels more controlled. Simple tasks require less caution. These small wins add up quickly. They restore independence and confidence, which is a major goal for anyone over 60, especially when safety is the priority. The most important thing is managing expectations. This approach is not about pushing limits. It's about rebuilding a strong foundation. Progress shows up as consistency, not extremes. The body adapts when given the right signals, and those adaptations compound over time. This naturally leads to the next question: how to take the first step safely and correctly. If you are over 60 and want to move with more safety, this is the right moment to start. You don't need extreme routines or aggressive changes. You need the right approach applied consistently. Small, smart steps create the biggest long-term impact. What you've seen so far is about protecting your body, not pushing it. Safety comes first, especially as movement patterns change with age. Starting now means preventing problems, not reacting to them later, and prevention always feels easier than recovery. The next step is simple and completely in your control. If you want to support your joints, muscles, and balance internally, check the link. I've placed the supplement link in the first pinned comment below this video. You'll find it in the first pinned comment below this video. You can review the details at your own pace. There's no pressure to act immediately, just clear information when you're ready. When movement and internal support work together, results feel more natural. The body doesn't fight the process anymore. It starts cooperating with it. That's what makes progress feel sustainable instead of exhausting. Many people notice they move with less hesitation and more trust in their bodies. This sets the stage for what really matters next: how these changes show up in everyday life. Many seniors who follow this approach report a similar pattern of changes, not dramatic overnight transformations, but steady improvements they can feel. Walking feels more confident, not rushed or forced. Mornings start with less stiffness and less hesitation. Daily movements require less mental effort. These are the kinds of changes people notice first, and they tend to build gradually over time, which makes them feel sustainable and real. One of the most common shifts is increased confidence while moving. People feel safer taking steps, turning, and changing direction. That sense of safety reduces tension throughout the body. When fear decreases, movement becomes smoother. That's why safe exercises for seniors focus on control. Control creates trust between the brain and the body, and trust allows muscles to activate more naturally. That alone changes how daily activities feel. Another frequently mentioned change is how mornings improve. Less stiffness when getting out of bed, less need to warm up just to feel functional. The body feels more ready to move earlier in the day. This doesn't mean pain disappears instantly. It means recovery becomes more efficient, and efficiency reduces frustration over time. That matters more than quick fixes.
People also describe feeling more secure during everyday tasks. Standing up from a chair feels steadier. Carrying groceries feels more controlled. Simple tasks require less caution. These small wins add up quickly. They restore independence and confidence, which is a major goal for anyone over 60, especially when safety is the priority. The most important thing is managing expectations. This approach is not about pushing limits. It's about rebuilding a strong foundation. Progress shows up as consistency, not extremes. The body adapts when given the right signals, and those adaptations